Hi, everyone. I'm Daniel, and today I want to talk a little bit about what I call a chicken or the egg problem. That is, what exactly is the source of some problematic interactions in Arkham Horror, the card game? We're going to talk about Unrelenting, the card you see here, which is a really, really powerful card. Or is it? Or is it just that we have some problematic interactions with two investigators in particular? So let's sit down and talk about the issue. Unrelenting is a skill card that I almost never see outside of those two investigators, and yet let's read what it says on the surface. It's a 1 XP skill card in Survivor with just one wild icon. That's not very good. The power here is in the text, of course. It's practiced, something that we'll come back to later, and has max 1 committed per test after you commit Unrelenting to a skill test. So after you commit all your cards, since they commit at once, you search the Chaos bag for up to 3 non-auto-fail Chaos tokens of your choice and seal them here on Unrelenting. Now you check what those tokens were. You basically have two options. One is to pick things that would make it harder to pass the test if you drew them. So maybe your -4, -5, your Elder Thing token, whatever would be really bad to draw, you could seal it and basically have a better chance of passing a test. That's pretty good. However, if you want to chance it a little bit and have it be a bit riskier, you get a huge benefit. If you seal +1, 0, blessed tokens, or the Elder Sign. So if all three come from that list, you get to immediately draw two cards. Now, since you've passed the window for committing skill cards, those two cards don't get committed to the test too, but drawing two cards fast essentially is quite nice. Release all tokens sealed here after this test ends. So again, you have two options. Do I want to make it easier for me to pass the test? Or am I already going to pass the test with this +1 from the Unrelenting and I want more cards? Because it's a card game, card draw is real good. Now, for 1 XP, this effect, fast, essentially no resources, draw 2, is reasonable. At level 0, we do have a couple of fast draw 2 cards, things like Glory, the new Gather Intel. The going rate otherwise is you spend an action and you get an extra card out of that, something like Preposterous Sketches or Deep Knowledge. Of course, those cards, there's some other cost to them. Of course, the Gather Intel or Glory, there needs to be some condition around, is there an enemy around? Did you just defeat an enemy? Did you just spawn an enemy? So it's not so simple as taking a skill test. So Unrelenting is quite good for that, and it has that flexibility. Once you get up to seeker nonsense like level 4 is cryptic research. That's when it becomes fast and free. Even level 2 has protecting the Anirnic, which is cost you, I believe, 1 for drawing 3 with, a pretty strong condition. Still, this is quite good. Now, that's not really the conversation people have around this card. It's really around how can I abuse this ability, because there are two investigators who do that very, very well. So let's take a look at who they are. Silas Marsh, of course, who is on the art, and Amanda Sharp, who is not on the art, but she can take practice skills. So practice cards 0 to 3 are in her deck building, and you know what? All three of these came out in the same set in the Innsmouth Conspiracy. So you'd think that they designed this card around these two investigators. Let's look at why. Silas first. His ability is Reaction. After you reveal a Chaos token during a skill test you're performing, return a skill you committed to this test to your hand once per round. What does that mean for Unrelenting? Well, you commit this card, Unrelenting the test. You commit all the cards. Then you draw your two cards, and this is before you are actually revealing Chaos tokens for the skill test, right? That's part of the point. This gets you some tokens out of the bag. Then you get to draw your cards. You see if you actually want to keep Unrelenting committed or not. You can return it to your hand after you reveal Chaos tokens. So, for example, you were going to pass the test anyway. You don't need that +1 from Unrelenting. Return it to your hand. Hey, I already drew my two cards. I don't get to throw that back. Usually for Silas's ability, for cards like Overpower or Eureka, those effects happen at the end of the skill test, during the resolution of the skill test itself. Unrelenting, the whole text on there already happened. So you can pull back Unrelenting, you got the benefit already, and you can do this again next turn. So what we're witnessing is a small amount of recursion. That is, you get to use this skill card more than once. Skill cards in this game, as well as events, are generally designed around one use abilities. This doesn't cost you anything, right? No action, no resources, but it's a very powerful effect. Imagine if you could loop this and do it every single turn. Well, now Silas has tons of cards in his hand, right? He might not want to do this for every turn, right? He might want to return something else to his hand. But look, he already has the need to use cards a lot. If you look at his Sea Change Harpoon, which is his signature card right down there in the middle that came out in the Innsmouth Conspiracy box, it really wants you to commit cards to fighting. Again, if you've committed a card and it goes to the discard pile afterwards, then it's gone. If I want to do extra damage with my Sea Change Harpoon, do 4 or 6 damage in a particular turn, I have to have a lot of cards in hand in order to do that. And they have to be skills for this particular card. So, this kind of weird interaction where you are getting the benefit from committing the card, even though you don't have the downside of losing the card, seems to be built into Silas, right? His other signature card that came out in the novel version, Nautical Prowess, has the same kind of weird timing. There's only a few cards out there that are like that Silas can take advantage of getting the benefit, even if he returns the card to his hand. It's a weird interaction. It's unintuitive to most people when they're reading this card, but that is indeed how it works and presumably makes sense because, hey, these are all designed together. So, this is okay, right? The Elder Sign ability is also kind of nuts, right? You can commit a skill card from your discard pile to the test, even after you've drawn the Elder Sign. You commit Unrelenting, you already know you're passing the test. You can just, seal the +1/0/0 or something, and then you draw 2 cards and return this to your hand. It's bonkers. But again, Silas doesn't have that much going for him other than this kind of skill card recursion, and he needs a full hand to do it. So maybe this is reasonably okay for Silas. I think it's okay. Maybe my solution here would be to move that draw 2 cards to after the test ends. That would be a pretty easy fix here to not just have an unrelenting loop. It's still good to use once, right? And to use it to return to your hand if you don't need it anymore, but not get the 2 cards, matches up with all the other kind of skill cards already. So I would personally remove that interaction just because it does put Silas a bit over the top, but he's not the most problematic user of this card. And that would be Amanda Sharp. And let's look at what the difference is between these two investigators. So Amanda's ability makes her actually commit cards every time she takes a skill test. So at the start of the investigation phase, you're going to draw a card, discard the card that's already beneath her, choose a new card, place it beneath her, and at the start of the skill test that you're performing, you commit the thing that is underneath and you don't discard it. So if you thought that Silas was nuts for reusing a skill card, right? Um, like Unrelenting, because he gets the benefit without the discard problem. Amanda gets to do this for every skill card. It's not just Unrelenting. And my fix here, right, of remove the draw 2 cards when you immediately do the token sealing, which otherwise doesn't matter, right? Because you're not able to commit those cards in the first place. But if that's moved to the end of the skill test, Amanda gets that benefit anyway. So this card, as it is, essentially, you could fail the skill tests and still get the 2 cards. Her turn is essentially, if you're taking 3 skill tests, draw 6 fast. That's a little nutty. And Amanda is just a little bit crazy in general. So, as I mentioned, it's not just those cards. She has the whole Seeker pool to take even more advantage. So, Perception, level 2 especially, already does this kind of effect. Cryptic Writings, you get benefits for drawing it during your turn. You're going to get a ton of cards in hand. You're going to get a bunch of resources. And I mean, Unrelenting is great for this, but Perception would be just as good. So I don't know. I mean, this is just sort of a busted interaction because of Amanda, not because of Unrelenting. Silas, I think it's more on the Unrelenting side, And for Amanda, it almost doesn't matter. I mean, it does in the sense that we have cards like Practice Makes Perfect, which helps fish this out. And she has access to it, Silas doesn't. So, yeah, if you've never seen this sort of loop played, unfortunately, what happens is this is a, a thing you put in your deck at the very beginning within the thick of it, or you're putting it in after the first scenario, no questions asked, because it supercharges everything. Remember, I said earlier that skills and events are meant to be just used once. Cards like Practice Makes Perfect say, well, let's get an extra use out of you. But then the problem is what happens when you get an extra use? You're essentially using this 4 times, and then you're drawing so much that you see this over and over and over again. It becomes the identity of the deck instead of other maybe interesting things you could do with skill cards. So to me, Amanda herself is the problem. It's not unrelenting. And yet, I think there's a little bit of a toxic element of this card where most players have only seen it played in Amanda or Silas. And on its own, I think it's fine, right? This seems like a reasonable effect to have in the game. It's comparable to other cards, but just because it's a skill card, just because it's practice, just because it has some weirdness in terms of the timing for drawing the cards, you see it only in investigators who can abuse the hell out of it. And I think that makes it tough for designers to remember that these cards could be played in everyone. And I get it. Like, you want interesting interactions between cards, you want investigators to do well using their abilities. And yet, this is, again, just getting in the land of how much is too much abuse, right? uh, again, I'm not trying to say don't have fun winning the game or playing the game or don't have interactions between cards and investigators, but I think something like Amanda is a mistake because printing cards, all cards, is going to be really tough. Again, Unrelenting doesn't matter what it says; it just says draw two. Maybe if it said only if this was successful. I mean, Take Heart, right, is another one of these cards that is interesting in Silas, but it's much harder to trigger. This is so easy to trigger, right? Because it happens when you commit it, no matter what. All right, that's all I wanted to say here about this chicken or the egg problem. What really leads to the busted interactions we're seeing? And to me, the answer is it's the investigator here. Let skill cards and events be recurable, right? But make them hard to recur. Make there be some kind of cost. Double double being the way to recur events immediately is expensive. It costs you 8 XP, costs you 4 resources to put into play, and you can do some really crazy things with it only after you find it and put it into play. Amanda Sharp, she does it asking nothing of you, especially in Seeker where, yeah, you have all twos. You still need to pass the tests eventually, but we've got things like higher education, magnifying glasses, all kinds of ways that she can still pass the test. So that's my diatribe on this card. I'd love to see it played in other investigators just for the interesting effect that it has. But unfortunately, I think it's been siloed into these two investigators who just put it over the top. Let me know of any other cards that you think have this interesting question of wondering, is it the card's problem or is it the investigator's problem or is it between two different cards where the interaction seems crazy? Which one is it that is really causing the problem? And I might discuss it further on my channel. All right, thanks for watching. See you next time.